Hi, my name is Travis Gilbert, and you're watching what used to be called Curious Tangents, a name that I really love, but picked for a lot of bad reasons. Some of you might know this from watching my older videos, but I am terribly dyslexic. I remember when I was a psychology student, I was taught that the human brain doesn't need to try to read words when it looks at them. You will just read words automatically. I'm dyslexic to the point where I actually have to put in effort to complete tasks like that. In making these videos, I've never used a teleprompter or even had a full, complete script. And that's because if I had a teleprompter, I would be reading it so slowly and so robotically that no one would ever watch anything through because it would just be disengaging, and I would also be disengaged. I never use a full script because the output of what I want to say into words just doesn't transmute. I'm just memorizing everything and then saying it to a camera. Despite the fact that I am incredibly aware that I have this problem, I chose to make the thing that I spend the majority of my day doing something that requires a whole lot of reading and writing, and I love it. Being dyslexic, having a learning disability, I found that there are multiple ways that it disables you. There's the first way that I've been trying to explain, which is that having to take in inputs is just a bit more difficult for you, and also having to later turn those inputs into outputs or articulate your thoughts or do something in writing is also more difficult. And I think most people can see that. And then there is the other way that it disables you, which isn't so much a facet of your own biology, but more so a facet of society. A common feature that I found in other people who are also dyslexic is that you can sound like a genius and be incredibly articulate out loud, but it doesn't necessarily translate over to the written word. And most of us in school are judged on how well we write, not on how well we speak. When teachers began to believe that I was really trying my best, they also started to think that something was wrong with me. Once they decipher that, they're going to begin to pull you from your regular peer group and place you into special classes, which in my head I interpreted as something is especially wrong with me. The mentality that something is especially wrong with me and thus things are not working out has followed me through every part of my life. When things went wrong with my schoolwork, I assumed that the issue wasn't that sometimes things are just more difficult for some people, but that I was the problem, and I would always be more difficult to solve than basic mathematics. I've generally avoided entering into relationships because something is especially wrong with me. I wouldn't want to burden other people with that. But on the rare occasions when I did find myself involved in one and there was inevitably a problem, my only real response to the problem was, what did I do wrong and how can I fix it? This might seem ideal to some people, but it's very, very arrogant. A relationship is literally, definitionally, more than one person. So there's usually more than one source of an issue. To some people, this is going to seem like an ideal approach, but I promise it's mostly just arrogance. A relationship definitionally takes more than one person, and thus if you only look at yourself, then you're constantly ignoring other sources of problems, and that's just never going to lead to healthy situations. In professional relationships or settings, I've always assumed that the problem was me, regardless of the 1,000 other variables that are constantly going to be coming at you in a professional setting. Every business I've ever known about has lost money at some point, and that's not a feature of their owners being incompetent or imperfect. Because everyone is imperfect, you can't control for that variable. It's just basic economics. The wave will come and so will the trough. But if you begin to think that you are the trough, you run into the huge problem that you can't be solved. There is no solution for the condition called human. You've just got to ride it out. One day about 2 years ago, I was sitting around experiencing what can only be described as intensely unjustified and unprepared heartbreak. I also had a lot of free time on account of the fact that, due to my mental health, I had dropped out of college a couple months before. And in that heartbreak with that free time, I decided that I would become something that I always wanted to be. a YouTuber. The reason all my beginning videos were about psychology was not because I was a psych major, but because I had wanted to be a psychology student, but didn't quite have the grades. And so you were seeing me attempt to reach for something that I couldn't really have. But anyway, despite this channel being born out of heartbreak and spite and based on things that I just have a natural tendency to be slower at, I really love it. The reason this channel is called Curious Tangents is because I didn't think anyone would really want to read or listen to me talk about anything I was really interested or curious about. But maybe they would want to hear tangents of it. If you ever watch my earlier videos and notice that the topic just kind of bounces, what you're actually seeing is me deleting large portions of the script and moving to the next item. At this point in my life, I would like things to be more than just the manifestation of my insecurities. And so, a start to that is me changing the name of this channel from Curious Tangents to Travis Gilbert. Thanks for watching. More soon.